actually a very relevant topic, and I think the whole society is looking at how we make that shift. So what do we have in mind besides dogs and scanners?
For the little piece of history here, I'll keep this very brief. The senator is correct that quite a few years ago this topic was broached with me. At the time, it was not trying to address drug abuse was not within the scope of the class action. Right. And I was concerned about program creep, that I would suddenly say, let's reach out. And we had our hands full enough with the problems we were dealing with. I think we're far enough along now, and particularly with an undersecretary appointed, it's a conversation worth having within the department. I'll defer to Diana for her reaction to it, but I'm certainly willing to participate in that.
And I think that the department is willing to participate as well. As you know, or you may not know, we have contracted with Pew to help us assess, to assess all our problems. And so that will definitely be a program that we can put in the mix and then work with our medical partners through the rehabilitative programs and see what we can get into place.
If there's a way we can get the history of programs in the facilities, because quite frankly, Mr. Kelso, I think over time, when budget cuts hit, a lot of the programs that actually helped people, they weren't what I consider medically acceptable programs, but they were some social model addiction medicine programs, and we have, of course, several of our facilities that focus a little bit on addiction. Those programs were reduced in the budget cutback years, and it'd be interesting to see, Madam Chair, the history of those cutbacks to look at what happened over the last decade. I don't know if you agree with me, but I believe that's what I'm saying is correct in terms of the programs, even though they weren't what I call medical programs. And Madam Chair, the other issue is that programs in other states are far beyond the programs we have in California. There's some pretty good examples of other states and other corrections facilities that have taken the bull by the horns and addressed addiction and substance abuse to a much greater degree than California has. And I think it's very important that we do this in a sense that if we have somebody that's not fully rehabilitated, if you want to use the definition of rehabilitated, I would include drug-free. I would include drug-free as the goal of rehabilitation. So I think this is a very important goal that we need to set. And it's going to take a lot of work. Thank you.
It's going to take a lot of work, and I thank you for raising it now, because we're going to have a specific hearing on the substance abuse programs in the department on April 7th. So if you could just see and maybe do some thought in the next couple of weeks, and you could let us know how you think we might proceed in a good way when we do have that hearing on the 7th. That would be very helpful.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah. Are there any comments from the public on the overview? Oh, you weren't here.
Clint Kellen, Department of Finance. Not a public comment, but just related into context on the substance use disorder treatment. A little broader than the department, but an important endeavor the state is going through right now. Through the expansional waiver, the state is incorporating substance use disorder as part of the Medi-Cal program. It's a 5-year pilot. It's the only one in the nation. One of the components is focusing on those in the criminal justice community. So there is a holistic look, and definitely discussions need to be had within the department, but there's also other programming opportunities that we're kind of ramping back up as far as on the treatment side, not directly related to medical, but we are doing efforts to try to address that issue, and further discussions will continue.
Okay. Are there any comments from the public other than the Department of Finance on this issue? But thank you. That's very helpful, because as we know, that waiver is a very important cornerstone of what we may be able to do in the future. Any comments from the public? Seeing and hearing none, we will move to the second item on our agenda, which is the janitorial service proposal for the Stockton Medical Facility. As you know, the budget proposes, I did think this was interesting, 5 positions for almost $6.5 million, which seems pretty expensive. But at any rate, the receiver's office will present the proposal, please.
Yes, Joyce Hayhoe, Ledge Director for the Receiver's Office. We're requesting 5 positions and $6.3 million in the current year, $12.12 million ongoing, and the funding itself is to contract with Pride Industries to provide cleaning at the California Healthcare Facility in Stockton. So the positions themselves are the oversight of the program that will happen through Pride Industries. As you know, Pride Industries provides many services through the use of employees with developmental disabilities. We're happy to have Mr. Victor Worston, who is the Vice President of Pride Industries, here today. But in looking at the overview for cleaning at the California Healthcare Facility at Stockton, we needed to look for alternatives that were cost-effective that would also provide a greater benefit. And Pride Industries was the company that we were able to partner with. They have a lot of experience with cleaning large facilities of these types. For those of you that go to Terminal B in the airport, Sacramento Airport, they cleaned that. I found out that they actually have to go up and vacuum the Red Rabbit twice a year. We are grateful to have them here to provide us with these services at our facility.
Thank you. LAO, any comments?
Jonathan Peterson with the Legislative Analyst's Office. We don't have any concerns with the governor's proposal.
Okay. Fine. Department of Finance.
Tabitha Stout, Department of Finance. We don't have anything to add.
Okay. Well, I've got to say, I'm a little concerned. This is a facility that has had violent incidents. It's a troubled institution. We had to pull it back and not fully activate it when it was first put online. And bringing potentially vulnerable individuals into that work environment, requiring them to interact with other individuals who may have a history of manipulating or victimizing or preying on people, and seems problematic to me on the face. Like, why did we pick this institution? I'm also interested in what was the problem with the, I believe Cal Pia was using inmate labor to do these jobs, and that you could actually get jobs on the outside as a janitor, so that it was arguably a rehabilitative function. And then, frankly, we have almost a 1-to-1 ratio of staff to inmates at Stockton, 1,500 staff roughly and 1,800 inmates. And 1,000, I believe, of those inmates were 600 beds, 100 or so were to have inmates that could do prison labor in the prison. So again, ongoing $12 million a year for 5 positions seems extremely expensive to me.
So yes, Madam Chair, Pride is actually employing, I believe, up to 100 people that will be there that will be responsible for the cleaning. So 5 people aren't going to be cleaning, 5 people are overseeing the program. So I think we'll have Mr. Worston come up. He can talk to you and speak to you actually about the vetting process that they go through to ensure that the job match is appropriate for the environment that we have there at CHCF. But I wanted to speak quickly about why we cannot use CalPIA at that facility. As you know, we have a very successful CalPIA program at every other healthcare facility, but the sheer size of the California healthcare facility in terms of the square footage, the need for cleaning 7 days a week, we did not have enough prisoner workers because we only have 100 workers at the prison to take care of all of the prison jobs, whether it be jobs in the kitchen, jobs throughout the rest of the institution. So the CalPIA price to do the cleaning there was cost prohibitive because we didn't have enough inmate workers that live on the site. Instead, Pride is creating a footprint now at Stockton. Stockton is an underserved community, and we will be the largest employer of developmentally disabled employees in the Stockton area. And so I think we'll have Mr. Worston now talk to you about the process they go through in terms of vetting these people to make sure that everybody's safe. Thank you.
Great. First, I'd like to thank the senators for the stabilization of the DD system that occurred 2 weeks ago. Senator Bell, I know you're all involved in that, and we appreciate that. We were losing 30 to 40% of our vendor population, and it was just heading down that path. We appreciate the great support on that. Pride Industries is a Roseville-based 501(c) with a specific mission of providing employment opportunities for people with disabilities. We now are in 15 states with over 5,500 employees. 2,900 of those are people with disabilities or some other barrier to employment. We have had experience in not only in the custodial and the facility maintenance field in a number of different areas. At LA Air Force Base, we have facility maintenance. We also have the Administrative Office of the Courts, where we provide the facility maintenance program there, as well as landscaping and some of the custodial programs from all the courts from Bakersfield to the border. We also have the custodial contract with the ISD, which 4 districts in the Los Angeles County area, as well as the Sacramento Airport, Lambert Field Airport in St. Louis, the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, and other larger facilities in the Sacramento area, such as UC Davis, VSP, that campus there. Our experience in both commercial, custodial, and in facility maintenance is vast, and our experience of putting people with disabilities to work in these types of opportunities is vast. We've had some experience working in the with individuals that have been incarcerated or currently incarcerated through some reentry programs that we've tried, some partnerships with the Prison Industry Authority, and also with a program through the Regional Center working with reentry or forensics clients that have been out of the Porterville Developmental Center that have been adjudicated into those programs. Our specific goal is the health and safety of the people that work for us, and that's not only our disabled population, but those individuals that work for us that are not disabled also. So as you can imagine, the level of safety and the level of supervision and concern is actually at a much higher level than you will find with most other companies because of that population. I would like to point out that almost all of our employees with disabilities that will be on this contract will be referrals from Department of Rehabilitation. Department of Rehabilitation has a significant vetting process for individuals with disabilities in terms of determining their desire, their ability to work. There is a assessment process as well as a job exploration process done previous to their referral to Pride. Pride then makes a determination of their capabilities to work, also providing assessments and training. So the individuals that are on this contract really mirror the population of the community. These are individuals with disabilities that are treated just like our non-disabled employees. They will wear the same uniforms. They will look the same. You will not be able to tell them apart. That is our focus, is that this is a completely integrated environment. Like I said, the level of training, the level of supervision, the level of care, health and safety has to increase because of that, and that is our focus. There are specific things that have been done because of this environment. We can review those, but they are related mostly to work group type crews as opposed to individualized work situations, as well as panic, emergency, and I don't even know what they're called, but whistles and then emergency.
Personal alarms.
Yeah, there we go. I've fallen and can't get up type stuff. Yeah. Those are part of what we're doing out there. But like I said, the focus with us is to actually put together a very strong work group type situation where individuals with the supervisor will work together in groups, as opposed to individually working in cells and that type of thing. Again, Pride has had incredible experience doing this. If anybody can, we can. We believe that this is an environment where we can be successful. And in the last 6 weeks, we've proven that's actually the case.
Okay, thank you. I do have a question for the LAO or finance. What was the cost of the CalPIA program? And I would note that my understanding is that the DeWitt Nelson facility, which is adjacent to the Stockton Medical Facility, which has over 2,000 inmates, was also placed there in order to provide jobs and prison labor for the medical facility. So the redundancy concerns me. If there's an increase in cost, it concerns me. And I would just note, this is a lot of money.
Yes, Madam Chair. So I can take each of your questions in order. First of all, the cost of the CalPIA program was $18.8 million, which is the reason why we looked for a cost-effective alternative. We felt that saving $6.5 million a year was in the best benefit to the state. The reason why the cost is high is because in building the California Healthcare Facility, we only have 100 inmate workers for the two facilities, both DeWitt and California Healthcare Facility, main facility. The overwhelming majority of patients that are in DeWitt are lower inmates with lower, not an acute need of medical care, but a medium need of medical care. We also have a large number of beds there for mental health patients. Neither of these people that are housed there are able to perform the work that would have been able to be provided by CalPIA.
So it is actually incorrect to say that one of the things about DeWitt was that it was to provide inmate labor for the medical facility.
It is a true statement, but only for 100 people.
It was designed primarily for additional mental health and inmates with a variety of, Joyce has indicated, lower level medical needs. So the 100 was supposed to be the work group.
Okay, thank you. Did you? You don't have to. No,
well,
it's okay.
Well, as everybody knows, Senator Chesbro and I had legislation that was successful that focused the Department of Developmental Disabilities on integrated supportive employment as opposed to workshops. And this is what I would call integrated supportive employment.
This absolutely qualifies the CIAE requirements under the Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act, as well as the new Medicaid waiver rules. Yes.
So this is the direction that state policy was, and we're trying to get all the departments to integrate people with special needs and developmental disabilities into their employment base. The approach, I think, would be to look at each individual and each individual job and determine appropriate placement for that individual. And then can you talk about the supportive elements, because sometimes people with, depending on their disability, need supportive efforts. And then can you talk about the issue of minimum wage, because I believe the federal government is, for the programs for developmental disabilities, phasing in implementation of a minimum wage. And what would these employees receive in terms of wages, benefits?
So, they receive the same, it's a WDR, so they receive the same wages as their non-disabled counterparts.
Okay,
There's no
so
differentiation in
so
wage.
there would be no differentiation. So this is like the goal of the State Commission on
Correct, the
Developmental
Employment First rules
Disabilities,
and
the
everything.
Employment First rules. And so
Yes.
we want to be able to say that we passed the marker here and set an example for other departments, such as Caltrans, who hires for, I'll just say that, Madam Chair, they do not pay.
That's
people.
also a great benefit to us
I
from
know, but
contracts
they're-
like this.
Yeah.
But their
that are
contracts
successful.
are not as
No, let me
good. So
say,
this is important for the developmental
this-
disabilities community.
I am 100% in support of opportunities for them. In fact, the governor signed a bill that we all passed, that I authored last year, allowing an internship to replace the written exam for people with developmental disabilities, so they could be hired, actually, through the state programs. My concern is this facility, a prison setting, medically and mentally ill people, and an institution that has been troubled. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that the very large amount of money is not out of line with what our other expenditures were, but I am concerned about safety and training. And I realize the contract is already in place, is my understanding, so it isn't something that we get to say yes or no to. I guess I want to underscore that we better keep people safe in there.
Well, to Senator Bell's question, this is a significant vetting process for every person with disabilities that goes in. And this is a wide range of disabilities. You may picture a person with a developmental disability. Well, the scope is much broader than that. And it truly does mirror the population that you see in the prison system right now. We're talking about mental health issues, physical disabilities, sight impairment, hearing impairment, all qualify. We work a lot with the Veterans Administration. PTSD now does qualify as a qualifying benefit, a qualifying barrier to employment. And to the question of support, through the Workforce Investment Opportunity Act does allow for 3 to 6 months worth of job coaching and job support. Pride provides that. We also, through our foundation and through our operational costs, will provide support longer than that, and we do that in most of the areas that we work, to make sure that there's always that kind of support available to them.
Yeah, I think that we have to urge our departments. I note that this was something that was championed by the First Lady, Maria Shriver, championed this to get state agencies to hire people with developmental disabilities, and I just want to point that out. Her efforts were very strong, and we have people in our own building here that have been hired in the Capitol. So we have to urge our departments to support that goal. I agree with the chair's concern about placement, safety. Those issues have to be looked at very carefully, and I think that we should continue this effort.
Okay.
And I'd just like to add that we really agree with your assessment of the need to make sure that we have a safe program. It was one of the reasons why we didn't have a proposal last year when we talked about the need for cleaning at the California Healthcare Facility is we wanted to take our time to make sure that we got it right. And in choosing Pride Industries, that there was a model that we felt was safe because of the clientele that we have at the facility. So we share your concerns, and we have state staff at the same time now that are responsible for overseeing how the cleaning is going at the facility so we can keep on top of anything that occurs before we have any incident that happens.
Thank you. Senator Anderson.
I have some questions that I wanted to ask a little earlier, but so in that facility, there's 2,000 folks and only 100 are allowed to work. That's less than 1%.